psychologist and managing director of Open Spaces Consulting, one of the leading organization development agencies in Mumbai and in India too. I'm bringing to you yet another episode in the series of Enlightened Conversations with subject matter experts. Today, we are going to be talking about HR challenges and with particular reference to the construction sector, which is plagued by labor shortages and challenged by project-based organization. Human resources management in this sector requires a very proactive and multifaceted approach to managing the workforce. We have to have structured recruitment and training programs to help address skill shortages and enhance employee capabilities. At the same time, we also have to implement robust safety protocols and wellness initiatives to ensure the worker well-beings and reduce attrition and increase productivity at the same time. We need to emphasize clear communication and cultural sensitivity so that we foster collaboration amongst diverse teams in a dynamic work environment. Additionally, HR people in the construction sector, like any other sector, need to leverage technology for workforce planning and compliance, helps to streamline operations in HR and enable organizations to remain agile and competitive. Our subject matter expert today is Ms. Rashida Sultanali. She's a business partner with specialization in human resources and is currently the head of human resources at Leighton Contractors Private Limited. Rashida's aim is to make a difference by developing and spearheading human resources and organizational effectiveness. Over the course of many years, she has worked in different countries in varied professional and local work environments with people from diverse backgrounds and cultures. This has led to a strong understanding of human behavior and talent management. I have known Rashida for a couple of decades now, and with a long career, she has got long stints in Maersk Sealand and in Panalpina. For the last 5 years, she is the head of human resources and compliance at Leighton Contractors in India. Her specialities are organization development, talent and leadership development, and also team interventions. So let's hear Rashida Sultanali. So hello and welcome to Rashida Sultanali. As I've already introduced her, she is the head of human resources at Leighton Contractors. And Rashida, this is our audience of HR experts, and I'm trying to focus this time purely on the construction industry. Now, I know you as a truly grounded HR professional since before you entered the construction industry, and I've followed your progress over the last couple of decades. I have seen you work in companies like Maersk Sealand, where we have worked a lot together, in Panalpina, and which are in completely different sectors, and now with Leighton Contractors and the construction sector for the last 5 years. According to you, what are some of the unique and special HR aspects of construction sector in comparison to others?
So thanks, Aneeta, for that introduction. I think firstly, I should just start by saying I think the first differentiator is absolutely safety, because in a lot of the other industries that we kind of work on, unless there are oil rigs or something like that, right, we don't really we assume safety is a given. Whereas on construction site, it is something that we have to organize for, plan for, and ensure. So we spend a lot of time on our safety. We have something that's also called the One HSC culture, in which we, there are various aspects in terms of risk management, in terms of communication, in terms of innovation, in terms of how these different modules come together and how do we involve and what are our expectations from each and every one who's in the value chain. What is the risk management that we are going to do? So this one is a big differentiator for sure. The other thing I would also say is that there is a lot of communication that has to be very tight among the the tender teams, the project managers, the transition managers, HR, which is very vital wheel in especially construction, where the talent acquisition part of it comes and the compliance part of it comes, right? So we are far stronger as business partners in the construction industry, I feel, as compared to some of the other industries I worked in. because we have to make sure that whatever projects that we are tendering for, we are aligned with our HR in terms of what are our salaries, what's out there, what's going on in the market, at what level we are hiring, how do we, ensure that we are pricing all the things that are related to HR. And sometimes they're small things, right? I mean, right from your salaries to accommodation to hotel stay to transportation. We talk about labor accommodation, their food facilities, canteen facilities, their transportation. So there are a lot of these aspects which I think in FMCGs or in shipping, or these are not things that you really get a lot involved in,
Yes.
because these are all a given. Whereas here, these are hygiene factors. So we have to spend a lot more time in organizing, planning, and do that. The third thing I would also point out is, I mean, based on the project, we have a very steep hiring curve, right? You win a project, you need 200 people on that project. And maybe that spanned over, 2 or 3 or maybe even 6 months, but you need when the project is at peak, then you need almost 200 people there. So we have to be very organized in terms of our hiring strategies, our recruitment strategies, our policies, our procedures, because there's a high volume of both staff as well as labor that we are kind of interacting in. The fourth thing I would also say is a big differentiator is a lot of specialized roles, right?
Right.
I mean, it's
Project.
in a project. So right from the planning to the construction to the design to the the safety, the steel fixers, the rebar fixers, all of those carpenters, all
Very
of these are
specialized skills.
very niche, specialized roles and skills, right? So that's another big balance that we need to kind of work around. And yeah, so we have to be very, on top of it in terms of our onboarding, our joining kit, our induction, our, training. All of those things become, I feel, far more important. They're all important always in all industries, but I feel become far more important because we have a lot of systems and procedures also. Being an Australian MNC, and as you know, Australian firms tend to be quite heavy on processes.
Yes.
And we definitely are. And also because construction, we are quite, we believe in compliance and safety are our, kind of USPs. So therefore, we have to also ensure that, a lot of the systems and processes we use are compliant and, we're following the rule, so to speak, from a CIMIC perspective, because we are part of a much larger organization.
So do you see high attrition rates, particularly in middle of projects and, suddenly you've got a lot of people leaving, they go to the Gulf or they go wherever. So do you see such kind of attrition rates, and then how does it impact your business and your organization, and what are you doing, to put in place some best practices to mitigate these kind of challenges?
So, interestingly, in the last couple of years, since we've won a few projects, we're actually seeing a homeward run. So, in fact, we have a lot of people coming back from the Gulf. So, it's not that in few years ago, we were seeing a lot of brain drain, as we called it.
Yes.
Now, in fact, you're seeing a reverse kind of thing in place, because we have a lot of people who, and for various reasons, some come for personal reasons, some come for, their jobs, they're losing jobs there and therefore they need to come back home and so on. But we've in fact hired 3 to 4 project managers even who've come back from the Middle East. Even our tender head has, returned back from the Middle East. So we're actually seeing that kind of a trend.
Wow.
You're right, there is attrition, more on the labor workforce than in our staff workforce. I think we are quite, we're around 22%, maybe on a bad year, 25% in terms of attrition, which I think is pretty much, on the market. But from a labor workforce perspective, definitely there is a higher attrition because there are people who come for a day, they don't like, they move on. We have higher attrition in locations where the minimum wages are lower as compared to other cities where the minimum wages are higher. So that's another struggle for us. How do we overcome it? We just have to be extremely agile in terms of, our sourcing, our strategy, where we are hiring from. We definitely hire also in ahead of the curve. We have the ability also, because we have specialized roles and we have different projects, we have the ability to move a particular person from one project to the other if there's an attrition or if there's some whatever reason. We're able to move people around. They're all trained in latent systems and processes, so that gives us some flexibility as well. We've even, I mean, in terms of best practices, we've sent some of our HR people, labor sourcing people to some of these remote locations to, hire labor, the migrant workforce.
Yeah.
We have to be creative around how we are also remunerating, because especially around Diwali time, Chhat time, Eid time, a lot of these workers want to go on, it's week, 2 weeks, and then our program and our productivity obviously, takes a hit. Although we try to add that into our tender in the first place, because we know this is usual kind of behavior during these periods. In the case of projects which are in Delhi, NGT, we know it's expected sometime between November and February. So we also look at what are some of the things that we need to get done when there's a downtime and we can't actually do construction, but can we do a planning and program design and, all of those things, which necessarily we can't do when, work is in full procurement, all of those things, which you can't do when your job is live and full.
Okay.
Um,
So in fact, that was
and
me to my next question.
actually, just to add one,
Yeah.
just to add, the one big USP that we also have is all our labor is on latent payroll. Okay. So I think that's what creates the ability and the flexibility for us to move not only staff, but also our labor around, because they're familiar with the processes and they're on our payroll, and we run the payroll and the compliances and everything for them, as opposed to some of our competitors where it's subcontracted.
So Rashida, tell me, are there any special labor law and safety compliances that need to have some special attention from companies like yours? You have so many projects underway at any given point in time. So what are the challenges in these special labor laws and special safety compliances?
See, there's no special labor law, so to speak. I mean, there is a minimum wages and there are all the compliances. We need the BOCW license. We need the construction and labor workers license. We need, if we have a migrant workforce, we need the interstate migrant workforce, license. Then, of course, in terms of all the other compliances is, your PF and your ESIC and workmen's compensation and all of those things that we also have in place for all our, our staff as well as our labor. And from a safety and human resource, we have several internal processes where we ensure and we adhere to. On an annual basis, we have something that's called a human impact. It's a human resource impact assessment survey, just to make sure that there is no forced labor, bonded labor, child labor, so a lot of these things are taken care of. Like I said, safety becomes a big priority. How are the subcontractors, if at all we have subcontractors, how are the subcontractors ensuring that they are compliant? Do they have a wage register? Are they paying our labor by the 7th of the month as per the law? So there are a lot of these things that we have to really be quite vigilant on. We have a third party compliance vendor also who helps us monitor some of these things. And, so we have to be quite vigilant on a lot of these things. And then, of course, we have the usual issues in terms of we have a labor moving from one project to the other, doesn't have his UAN number. He comes up with a new UAN number and then he wants to withdraw his PF and then he's got two accounts. And, a lot of these things which are quite perhaps happen more here because the turnaround from a labor perspective is much higher than, some of the other industries I worked in.
Okay, so yours being a project-driven organization, and we do know that projects are provide always a consistent challenge of time and budget, and there's continuous pressure for time and cost budgets. So how do you take care of your workers and provide for some work-life balance and wellness under these conditions of continuous pressure?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really tough one. I'll be honest. I'm not quite sure how we really provide work-life balance because I think it's really hard in this industry where you are constantly at the beck and call of the client. And project timelines, delivery deadlines, cost deadlines, as you already mentioned. We try to do small HR, well, not HR, but people initiatives in terms of celebrating festivals together. I think we are one of the first companies in construction to run employee engagement surveys. We take people's feedback. We try and see what are their requirements. And you'll find that mostly in this industry, or at least here, the requirements are very transactional, right? I mean,
Right.
can we have snack every Friday evening, or can we play cricket match, or can we do these kind of things? And these are the small kind of things that we low hanging fruits and small things that we try to do for our staff as well as labor. But it is definitely a challenge, and I definitely don't think that we are anywhere close to being able to provide our staff with the work-life balance. It's different for head office staff, obviously, because they're not under the same restrictions or timelines as our project staff, and that's where sometimes there are a bit of anomalies. But it's hard. It's just really hard on the project, and especially when projects are starting up and your office is still not made, and a lot of these guys are starting up from a container. So conditions are hard. They're hard in this country with the weather and all of those things. So we are quite cognizant of it, but I don't think I've come up with a silver bullet in terms of how to be able to manage that, to be honest. I think we are also one of the first construction companies, perhaps, who have started also a back office now, shared service center for a lot of stuff that can be centralized, like a lot of our planning can be centralized. So only people who are on the project are people who actually need to be on project, working on the production. But some of the back office stuff like claims and planning and business BIM modeling, these kind of things are now starting to be centralized. And we have a huge it's called a One Digital Center, which we already have one in the Philippines. And we've just started one here in India as well. Our offices, they in fact just moved in November. Our office is in Navi Mumbai.
Wonderful.
And I expect that we will go to almost 500 people in another couple of years. We're already in 6 months at 55. And by June next year, the target is literally to double it. So, I mean, it's a challenge, but it is something that
the digital journey will unfold as we go.
Yeah. The digital journey is yet to unfold. Yeah, that's well put.
Okay, great. I really appreciate very much, the way you have shared so candidly a lot of your opinions, etc., and the best practices. And on behalf of all those who are going to be viewing this program in my training sessions and this video in my training sessions, and all the people who would be viewing it, thank you so much. And on behalf of Open Spaces also, thank you so much for sparing your time, effort, and energy today. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Aneeta. It was my pleasure.